Unidentified drones flew into Russia. As a result of the strikes, Belgorod was plunged into darkness, and the city's residents complain about living by candlelight. Meanwhile, in the Leningrad region, in the city of Kirishi, one of the largest oil pumping stations stopped working after being hit by drones. This station provided about 40% of the total capacity. It will take the plant about a month to restore it. And a new record? The drones covered 2,000 kilometers and struck Tyumen. And despite statements from the local authorities that there were no hits, locals recorded a massive deployment of emergency services heading toward the Antipinsky oil refinery. And in temporarily occupied Crimea, the Feodosia motor depot is on fire. For the second day in a row, they have been unable to put out the fire there. The flames are spreading to other tanks, the area is shrouded in acrid smoke, and the local authorities are pretending as if nothing is happening. Apparently, this is the kind of greeting that was sent to Putin from Ukraine, to the war criminal. Today he turned 73 years old. Putin dreams of immortality and works on it on the very day when the person most hated by Ukrainians turns 73. A number of European publications are releasing articles describing what is one of the most secretive projects in Russia, yet one that the whole world knows about. Putin is searching for the elixir of immortality, and he spares no expense, spending hundreds of billions of rubles from the Russian budget on it. Maria Vasilyeva has more details on all of this.
At the beginning of September, by chance, journalists' cameras captured what Putin and Xi Jinping were talking about during a protocol walk at the so-called Parade of Dictators. They were enjoying their ice cream. This moment was broadcast live on Chinese television. Due to a mistake by the technical staff, a microphone attached to the clothing of one of the dictators was forgotten to be turned off, and what was not meant for outsiders' ears ended up on air. The audio wasn't very clear, but artificial intelligence capable of lip-reading helped to decipher the conversation. Both, as it turned out, are very interested in the possibilities of modern medicine that could help extend their lives.
In the past, people very rarely lived to be 70 years old. But today, at the age of 70, you're still considered a child, Putin.
With the development of biotechnology, human organs will be able to be transplanted continuously, and people will be able to live in increasingly younger bodies and even achieve immortality.
According to
forecasts, in this century there is a chance to live up to 150 years.
Soon after, the Chinese television company removed this video from everywhere, but it had already spread around the world. Today, on his 73rd birthday, Putin really does look much better than many other Russian men. His concern for his health borders on obsession. He has a staff of personal doctors. He closely follows medical breakthroughs, and during the COVID epidemic, he isolated himself from everyone for many months to avoid catching the virus. On the rare occasions he met with others, he did so at a many-meter-long table. And when French President Macron traveled to Moscow before the invasion to try to persuade Putin to abandon the war, the Kremlin apparatus tried to force him to take a coronavirus test. Macron refused at the time.
Healthcare, and perhaps to some extent, maybe even in improving the man himself.
Operation 150 Years. The unofficial name refers to a number of projects overseen by Putin's eldest daughter, Maria Vorontsova. In Russia, where the average life expectancy for men is 68 years, hundreds of billions of rubles are being spent on scientific research to prolong the life of just one person, the Russian dictator himself. Vorontsova's new medical company, which specializes in nuclear medicine projects, made nearly 1 billion rubles in 2022 alone. After information about Vorontsova's scientific businesses appeared in the media, it began to be classified. Scientific research related to the study of aging continues to be generously funded by the Russian budget, even though it is bursting at the seams. Funding for these programs has increased sixfold, reaching 172 million rubles. After all, they say Putin plans to stay in the Kremlin for at least another decade, until 2036, or even longer if science and unlimited organ transplants work out just as he hopes. Maria Vasilyeva, TSN 1+1.
Lately, we've been rooting hard for corruption in Russia, especially when it comes to research in this area. Will the billions allocated for Putin's immortality be stolen? How much longer will the world have to endure the Kremlin dictator? And is it even still the same Putin or one of his doubles? Be sure to write all your theories, even the most unbelievable ones, in the comments to this broadcast on YouTube. And of course, like and subscribe to the channel. The TSN broadcast continues. He has almost made a decision on whether to sell Tomahawks to Ukraine. The President of the United States answered journalists' questions about whether he has decided on Kyiv's request for the supply of long-range Tomahawk missiles. Volodymyr Zelensky requested them during the president's meeting in New York last month. And now Donald Trump has said that he has almost made a decision but still wants to find out exactly how these missiles are intended to be used. He added that he does not want to allow an escalation. Let me remind you, Putin, commenting on the possibility of supplying this weapon to Ukraine, said that it would destroy relations between Russia and the United States.
I have almost made a decision already if you think about it. But yes, I think I want to find out what they are going to do with them. Where are they going to launch them? Maybe I should have asked these questions.
Hungary has no moral obligation to support Ukraine's accession to the EU. Viktor Orban publicly complains about Volodymyr Zelensky. The Hungarian Prime Minister wrote on the social network X that the Ukrainian president is allegedly using a tactic of moral blackmail to force countries to support his military efforts and accession to the European Union. According to Orban, his country has no moral obligation to support Ukraine's European integration, and he recalled a poll conducted in Hungary regarding support for Ukraine's EU membership. Its results, he claims, showed that the majority of Hungarians do not support it. This decision, although the questions in this poll were formulated rather provocatively. In particular, there were statements about the threats posed by Ukraine's accession to the European Union. Orban himself says that they do not want to be in the same union as Ukrainians because their fate is to be alongside Russia. In fact, it is precisely because of this country that the opening of so-called negotiation clusters with the EU for Ukraine is currently being blocked. Our government holds a different opinion. Volodymyr Zelensky. He previously stated that our country will become a member of the EU regardless of the position of the Prime Minister of Hungary. There is an attempt to force Ursula von der Leyen to resign. A vote of no confidence in her European Commission was discussed in the European Parliament on the eve. Both far-right and far-left political forces have complaints against the current president. They accuse her, in particular, of being the architect of Europe's shameful capitulation. Von der Leyen responds to them with calls for unity against the backdrop of heightened anxiety in Europe, as the official put it. Details of the heated debates from Radio Svoboda correspondent Zoriana Stepanenko.
Both political flanks, the right and the left, are calling for the resignation of one of the most pro-Ukrainian politicians in the European Union. And the latter accuses the current European Commission and its leader of lacking transparency and, quoting the left's spokesperson, of genocide in Gaza. They also say that she surrendered Europe's trade interests to the President of the United States, and in this, the left's complaint coincides with a remark from the other side, the right, and the political force, which is also demanding that Ursula von der Leyen step down. Among the ranks of this group in the European Parliament are allies of Viktor Orban and the French opposition leader Marine Le Pen. Jordan Bardella, a French MEP from the podium in the European Parliament, voiced the right-wing's grievances, accusing the head of the European Commission of ignoring the interests of industrialists and farmers, being overly welcoming to migrants, and claiming that under her leadership Europe has supposedly become the world champion of bureaucracy.
Madam President von der Leyen, for many years under your presidency, the European Union has been rushing headlong into the unknown. We will vote with our heads held high for this vote of no confidence. This is a vote against Macron's Europe. Above all, this is a vote for the survival of a Europe of free nations.
Of the 10 minutes allotted by the regulations for her response, the head of the European Commission spoke about family and did not mention by name any specific politician who wants her resignation. However, in her speech, she did mention Vladimir Putin as a key threat to European security, who, according to von der Leyen, wants to split the European Union from within. In this regard, the official called on the members of the European Parliament for unity and promised cooperation in any format so that together they can find answers to all the questions that arise.
Europe is in a heightened state of alert, from reckless incursions into its airspace to attempts at economic coercion, from relentless attacks on Ukraine to direct threats to our own security. To sow discord, spread disinformation, and create scapegoats, anything to pit Europeans against each other. To try to weaken our vigilance while we are caught fighting among ourselves, a trap, and we simply cannot fall into it.
There will be 2 votes of no confidence against the European Commission, as there are 2 motions submitted by different political groups. However, both proposals are doomed to fail. The ranks of von der Leyen's critics are not numerous enough to remove her from office. The formal vote will take place on Thursday. This is already the second attempt in 3 months to remove the current president of the European Commission from office, which in turn could undermine her authority and leadership. From Brussels, Zoriana Stepanenko, Marek Hajduk, Radio Svoboda, especially for TSN 1+1.
Poland has reacted negatively to accusations by former German Chancellor Angela Merkel regarding their role in Russia's aggression against Ukraine. In an interview with a Swiss publication, Merkel stated that she wanted to organize new negotiations between the EU and Vladimir Putin in 2021, but allegedly Poland and the Baltic countries opposed it. She also claimed that the COVID-19 pandemic contributed to Putin's decision to attack Ukraine. Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski, commenting on these accusations, stated that this is just as untrue as Merkel's claim in her memoirs that supposedly none of the Central European countries protested against Nord Stream. According to Sikorski, the former chancellor simply forgot about their opposition. The head of the Estonian Ministry of Foreign Affairs also responded to the interview, stating that placing responsibility on their country for Russia's aggression is not only inappropriate but also wrong, and that the real reason for the war lies in Putin's unwillingness to accept the collapse of the USSR, and in the fact that the West ignored warning signs, and he also blamed Merkel for misjudging the cost of economic cooperation with the Kremlin and by facilitating the launch of the Nord Stream gas pipeline, increasing her country's dependence on Russian energy resources.